Welcome to the Piston Fanatic. I'm your host, Dave Dalton, and I'm excited to share my passion and perspective of our Detroit Pistons as we go on this fantastic voyage together. I've been a diehard Piston fan since the days of Dave Bing and Bob Lanier. I've also been the varsity basketball coach of a very successful program in northern Michigan. Before we get started, please click on the subscribe button. Today, we got a lot to talk about. We're going to talk about the 21st consecutive loss by the Detroit Pistons, 129 to 111 to the Philadelphia 76ers. We're going to talk about Monty Williams' words versus his actions. We're going to talk about playing our young core four guys. We're going to talk about Draymond Green. We're going to talk about a game that took place 40 years ago, a Piston game 40 years ago that was a much happier day than today. We just got a lot to talk about, but let's get started. Again, 21 losses in a row, and when is it possible that we're going to win a game? And based on tonight, it doesn't look like it's going to be Friday, because Friday we got to play the same Philadelphia 76ers in Philadelphia, so that's going to be harder. And we got to play the next day a back-to-back against Giannis and Damian Lillard. And so that's going to be a nightmare. And then we got a day off, and then we get to fly to Atlanta and play the Hawks. And so then we don't play again till Thursday, and we get to play in Detroit against the Utah Jazz. And they're not having as good a year as they did last year, and a lot of people think they are tanking. They get their they only get their draft pick if it's one of the top 10 picks. Otherwise, it goes to somebody, conveys to somebody else. So it looks like that might be our best chance. But I'm going to say this: we've played some good teams and we've been in the games. But then like Bogey's had 2 bad games prior to this, and then tonight he's on fire. And then other guys have good games. We just have to have a night where we have multiple guys that are hot, and and it just has to happen for us where we shoot the three. That's a big problem. We don't have 3-point shooters, and the team, I think it's like, I heard a stat once, like 80% of the games are won by the team that shoots the three the best. So, but I'm going to talk about playing the core four, Monty and Monty's words versus his actions. And I'm tired. I just thought after that Pacers game, Monty saw the light. He got to see Ivey out there. He got to see what he can do with Asar and Cade. But he does not like Ivey. He is looking for every reason not to play Jaden Ivey. And who knows? I know there's a thing about the contention between him and Troy, that he's going to show Troy who's boss, I guess. I don't know. I don't know exactly what's going on. I can't speak exactly to that, but that's what kind of reports are. But Monty said all this great stuff about Ivey, and about how he can drive to the basket, and how we've figured out rotations and figured things out. And first half, there's 24 minutes and a half. Ivey plays 10 minutes. Second half, he plays 11 minutes. He played 21 minutes tonight, and he had other guys. He had Asar who got to start. Asar was out there playing during garbage time. His boy Killian was out there playing during garbage time. And so it's just frustrating to me that, Ivey has shown that he can score. He has shown potential. He has had some real good games, even with limited minutes. He's had real games. But here's the thing that happens tonight. It happens a lot of nights. So Stu, Killian, and Livers, his guys that he very rarely has said anything nice about Ivey. He did say some lately, so it made me think that maybe he was going to turn the page and that we were going to be okay. But those dudes played 80 minutes tonight. Those 3 guys combined for 80 minutes. They scored 12 points. And this happens all the time. They can't score. They're just, like I said, Stu and Killian are backups. They might be okay backups in the NBA, but they're not starting on any other team in the NBA. And then Livers might not get any playing time, and he played 27 minutes. So he played more minutes than Ivey. He played 6 more minutes than Jaden Ivey, and Jaden Ivey's our future, and who knows what Livers is. And it's not like if Livers was on fire and playing great tonight, it would be one thing, but he's not. And Stu got ejected. I hate that guy, Patrick Beverly. He's just a jerk everywhere he goes. I guess you'd like him if he was on your team, but he elbows Stu. The plays, they're way far away from the play. There's nothing going on, and he just backs into Stu and then throws the elbow into Stu's chest. And so less than a minute later, Stu lays him out and throws a forearm, and he goes flying on the floor. Technical on Stu. Stu gets ejected, and it was worth it though, Stu. And I'm not for violence, but he deserves it. And I'm just surprised that somebody hasn't cold cocked Patrick Beverley before now. I know he's got into it with. I mean, that's how he's made his career. So I guess you give the guy credit because he doesn't have enough talent to be a good NBA player, but because he gets, he guards other guys, and he's not even that good at that anymore. He's getting older, but he just gets in their head because he pushes, he does little dirty things all throughout the game. So anyway, some of you think about Tom Gores bothers you, but we don't have to even worry about what Tom Gores thinks or Monty Williams because they make big bucks. Monty's making 80 million, but Gores, here's him. I just heard that average NBA franchise is worth $4 billion. And of course, the Warriors are worth, and the Lakers, those are worth way more than that, and the Knicks. But also in the last year, the average price has gone up 33%. So that's really so if you're the bottom franchises are worth like $3 billion. So then if it goes up 33%, then that's $4 billion. So it's going up like $1 billion from last year to this year. And it don't matter how bad his team is, and he can just lay in Florida and get a suntan and do whatever he wants. And I heard people, and they thought it was odd how Monty talked to some of the staff members in a meeting with a bunch of people there and talked about how much money he was getting paid for, working for being the coach. So, and it's ironic. If you want to make a lot of money in the NBA, the secret is lose. So the two highest paid coaches in the NBA, Greg Popovich, and he's by far the highest paid, and Monty was before they gave Pop a new contract. But the Spurs are 3-20, and they've lost 18 in a row. So everybody said they should send the Pistons, do something good for the Pistons, because nobody's talking about them because we've lost 21 in a row. And otherwise, that would be the big story. And they have Victor. And, people criticize Pop. They got it, Jeremy Sohan is a terrible point guard. He's not a point guard. He's like a power forward. And Pop just keeps on doing it, just like Monty is stubborn and Pop is stubborn. And they both think that they're geniuses and these gurus. And anyway, all the analytics show how terrible the team is with Sohan, and they got a backup Trey Jones, a backup point guard, who when he comes into the game, they do really great. And it's just interesting how life goes. But another thing that's funny to me, I hear Monty talk about and people talk about on podcasts, the 0.5 offense. Watch the games. Tell me there was a 0.5 offense out there. That means that you catch the ball and you pass it or drive it or shoot it within 0.5 seconds. That ain't happening. Got to listen to another podcaster today, and it bothers me whenever podcasters start talking about effort. So they like to stereotype, or they like to characterize certain players, and they just regurgitate stuff they've heard from other people and what they want to have an opinion of, whether they like a guy or don't like a guy. And again, I could see the reasons why coaches like Stu, Killian, and Livers, but it's not because they're great NBA basketball players. It's because they have great attitudes and they work hard. But other people just they say, now they're even saying, oh, Cade's not trying on defense, or they always say that about Wiseman. And so Monty says after the last game how great and how tough and how hard Wiseman worked, and how great job he did, and how he communicated better than he ever has. But we needed him out there. They're scoring at the rim. We had no resistance at the rim. Nobody to contest shots. He had 3 blocks, Wiseman did, and we got out-rebounded by 13. And he played him only 13 minutes. And he's watching the game, and I don't know if Monty's just slow at figuring things out. He said the last game he said, we're just figuring out these rotations. But he just goes back and sets Ivey's butt right back on the bench and doesn't play him. And Ivey didn't have a good game. Cade didn't have a good game, and Cade's been playing really, really good. All you Cade haters, he last 11 games prior to this, he averaged 23 points, 4 rebounds, 7 assists, 1.5 steals, 45% from the floor, and 39% on threes. And he's only averaging 3.5 turnovers. And again, I'll say that's a good number for him. If he does what he does and has the usage he does, passing and shooting wise, 3.5 turnovers is not a bad thing. Tonight he only had one. So anyway, yeah, I am frustrated, and you're frustrated, and so that was a fun game to watch on Monday, but tonight was not fun to watch, and it's just disappointing. And again, it really, if I got to see Ivey and Cade and Asor play together, and I'm going to be okay if I get to see them try and even fail and improve, and then. But Bogey, man, he was on fire tonight. Bogey had two disappointing games prior to this, and we would have maybe been in one and be able to win one of those games if Bogey shot even close to what he shot tonight. So that's the tough thing, is we just don't have enough talent, and we have to have guys have really good games, but we card out there guys that aren't capable of it. I mean, it's just Stu and Killian and Livers have games like this all the time. Stu's 1 for 5. He did have 5 for 5 last game, but he didn't shoot a 3. And again, he got that big contract because he was going to be a stretch 4, but he's not a stretch 4. He doesn't want to even shoot the ball. So those guys aren't scorers, and Stu can catch the ball down low, and if somebody's between him and the basket, he can't get it over them. So anyway, we'll talk about a game that was a greatest game, one of the great games, the highest scoring game of all time. It was the Pistons. They played the Denver Nuggets, and I watched that game. It was triple overtime, and more points were scored in that game than any time ever. And for Isaiah and John Long both scored over 40, and Kiki Vandeweghe scored 50, and Alex English, who was smoother than silk, he had 40 something, and so it was a great game. I remember watching that game, and it was a lot more fun than tonight watching them score all those points. But I'm going to tell you, that was a fun team, and I thought that this team was going to be starting to be like that, because back when Isaiah was first on the team, we weren't competing for championships. We ended up making the playoffs, but we weren't great until we added Dumars and Rodman and Sally, and got James Edwards and Mark Aguirre and different guys that we added to the team. But they were fun with Isaiah out there running the show and going up and down the court, and they scored the ball really well, but not a lot of pressure on you. I mean, there was a lot of pressure on me when we were playing, when the Bad Boys were playing and the 2014 was playing. You wanted to win every game just to get better playoff position. So we're going to talk about, we're losing all these games. We've lost a whole bunch of games in this streak, and the worst one always people point to was the Portland game on November 1st. That was the beginning of the disaster, where we had this huge lead in that game, and we just choked it away at the end, and we were never the same after that. But so in the NBA, they keep track of clutch time stats, and that clutch time is the last 5 minutes of any game that's within 5 points during the last 5 minutes. So Pistons have had 29 minutes of clutch basketball, and our offensive rating is 61. So that's 61. That's out of 100 possessions. So that's terrible. The average NBA offensive rating is not just at the end of the games, but it's 115. And so we're minus, our net rating is minus 55 in clutch time. So we just don't score. So that's like, out of 100 possessions, we only score 61 points, and that is terrible. And that's why we lose those games. A lot of those games we've been ahead in the fourth quarter, and we score 2 or 3 baskets. But the answer is, a lot of those games we didn't have Bogey, wasn't there, and Ivey was sitting on the bench. So the answer is play Cade, Ivey, and Bogey, and we'll be okay. And I talked last podcast about our core 4 guys, and that's what it's all about, developing those guys. And it's been hard. It's not the coach's fault, and it's not just the general manager's fault. They haven't got to play together. So Duran, Cade, and Ivey have been here 2 years together, but Duran's got missed this year. Duran missed some games last year. Cade missed all but 12 games last year, and Ivey was sick a little bit this year, but Ivey hasn't got to play. So they played 22 games in 2 years. Those are core four, three of those guys, Ivey, Cade, and Duran. They played 22 games together, but even in those games, they haven't played any minutes together because Ivey never gets to play with the starters, so he hasn't got to play with them, so we don't even get to see it, and that's really frustrating to me. So, there's the .5 offense is just, it's a joke when people talk about it, when Monty talks about it. How many times get the games, watch how many times we swing the ball and make 3 quick passes or move the ball within .5 seconds. We dribble it, we run pick and roll and whatever. It's not a big deal. Another thing that bothers me, I got to listen to a podcaster say, evaluating how good Cade is and saying, Cade is okay and that he has these good stats. I mean, those stats, if he was on a winning team and had those stats, 23 points, 4 rebounds, 7 assists, 1.5 steals, 45% from the field, and 38% on threes, would be good. And most of those guys that get him, Cade has doubled. He has doubled. People pick him up full court and deny him the ball. He gets blitzed all the time, and he always is playing against the other team's best defenders. Not just their best defender, but when the best defender goes out, he's on their next best defender. And sometimes it's a bench guy who's just not a great offensive player, but is a great defensive player. And so he's putting up those numbers and percentages, not like Killian Hayes, who has people just laying off him and letting him shoot. But again, those guys don't score even when people let them shoot. Killian didn't even attempt a 3 tonight, and that's why it's hard to have floor spacing when they get no respect and they're not even looking to score on that. So, whoa, I guess got to relax a little bit. So we'll go through the box scores. Asar played 29 minutes. He played a lot. The game was a blowout, and Philadelphia took out their starters, and we took out a lot of our starters. But then he didn't play Asar that much but then he got to play up to 29 minutes because he got to play in garbage time when the game was over at the end of the fourth quarter. But he was 5 for 7, which is good, and 10 points. His percentage has been great for a month. Not his 3-point percentage, but even if you took all the 3-point misses, his percentage is really, really good. He had 8 rebounds, 3 assists, and only one steal. And I don't know if he even had a turnover. I don't think he did. But Bogey was phenomenal. And this is the guy that we need. And we got to have him. He's got to do it with the other guys. We got to have some other guys step up. But he had played 33 minutes. He was 11 for 19, 5 for 9 on threes, 6 for 8 from the line, 1 rebound, 2 assists, 1 turnover, and 33 points. So that was awesome. Stu, 22 minutes, like I alluded to. He was 1 for 3, 0 for 1. And Grant Long, bless his heart, Grant Long he was tough, man. When he played, he wasn't a great player. He wasn't a talented player, but he thinks that Stu is angry because they don't let him shoot the ball enough. Stu don't even want to shoot the ball. But, he's 1 for 3, 0 for 1 on threes, 2 for 2 from the line, 4 rebounds, 2 assists, 2 turnovers, and 4 points. Cade, 30 minutes, and he missed every shot. The first quarter, he was 0 for the whole quarter. And he didn't start. He starts going until the second quarter. Then he started making some shots, and he got to the line, career high 12 times. He's been to the line. He had 11 free throws twice in his career, but tonight he got 12 times. So he was 1 for 8 on threes, and so his 3-point percentage has been good this year. It's in his head. It's in a lot of their heads. They're frustrated and they're disappointed, and it is real hard. It's shaking their confidence and their shot and things. I mean, I watched basketball a long time, and I've seen it, and this is really, really bad. And Cade has a lot of pride, but his pride and his confidence is shaken, and I didn't think that would be even possible. But he was 10 for 11 from the line, and he had 6 rebounds and 7 assists, which is all real good, and 1 turnover, and so that's great. 21 points, but his overall shooting percentage was bad because he missed his first at least 6 or 7 shots, I think. Killian, 31 minutes, 3 for 8, 0 for 0 on threes, 0 from the line, 3 rebounds, 6 assists. He got a bunch of the assists at garbage time, throwing the ball to Sasser, who just got to play 5 minutes at the end of the game. But and it's weird, Killian gets to go out there and rack up stats against the other team's second team, but he had only 1 turnover, 6 points. Livers, again, 27 minutes, 1 for 4, 0 for 2 on threes. He's a stretch 4 or stretch 3. I don't know what he is, but he's just struggled, and it's not anything personal. Wiseman, like I said, Monty said how great he played last time, but he came in there and he started out great. He was 5 for 7, man. It was great to have him out there, those guys, because Stu's not that. So if anybody drives and Embiid leaves his man, but he's not big enough and he can't jump high enough for the lob, and like Wiseman can. So anyway, Wiseman played only 16 minutes and fouled out. And again, Embiid gets calls on everybody. Embiid shoots more free throws than anybody in the league, and Wiseman was out there trying. But I felt sad for him. They sent him to after every game they send one guy to do the press conference, and it was him. But he was 3 for 6. He had 1 block and 6 fouls, 10 points in 16 minutes. So Ivey, 21 minutes. 2 for 8, which is not good. 0 for 3. His shot's not even the same. He doesn't extend the arm and hold his follow through like he was at the end of last year and this year. And when I watched him play in the summer, his follow through is even better. But it's in his head, and whose head wouldn't it be in? But he had 2 rebounds, 1 assist, so he had 7 points. He had 1 block. He blocked Joel Embiid. He gets those blocks. He's blocked a lot of good guys and big guys' shots. Burks had 2 great games, and tonight 13 minutes, 1 for 7 from the floor, and he took some shots at the end of the shot clock, so that they were tough shots he had to put up. 1 for 3 on threes and 3 rebounds and 3 points. So that's what I'm saying, that we have to, if we're going to win a game, Cade has to be shooting well, Ivey has to be shooting well, and Burks has to be shooting well. Those are our guys that can score, and Asor's got to get those garbage points, and Durant's got to get those dunks, but he's going to be out for quite a while longer. So but Sasser got to play 4 minutes, 3 for 3. This is he did this earlier in the year when he got to play really limited minutes, and he would be spectacular. He was 3 for 3, 2 for 2 on threes, and had 8 points in 4 minutes. So anyway, we shot 44%, but we shot from the 3. We were 10 for 33, but if you take away bogeys and Sasser's, we were 3 for something, 3 for 23. We were terrible. 35 rebounds. We got out-rebounded 35 to 53. And again, we don't have any big guys that are playing. But here's the thing: two games in a row. 2 games in a row, we have had fewer turnovers than our appointments. We had a season low 9 turnovers, and they had 10. So, the Pacers had more turnovers than we did too. So, anyway, Embiid was 11 for 24, 12 for 12 from the line. Not only does he go to the line more than anybody, but he makes them. But he was 41 points in only 31 minutes. But this is ironic how things happen in the NBA, that Tyrese Maxey, who's going to get most improved player and is going to probably make the All-Star team, and he's averaged 30 a game, and he has been sensational. But he was 2 for 13 tonight, and he made a layup late in the game, and he looked up at the basket, and there was a timeout after he made it, and you could tell he was, relieved that he finally made it one. But Kelly Oubre, some of you wanted him. He was a free agent. Nobody in the world wanted him. He was like a month into the season before Philadelphia signed him, and but he came off the bench and was 7 for 9 and made 19 points. And that's what has to happen for us too. We have to have a little bit of luck. So anyway, I told you I was going to talk about Draymond. So Draymond is suspended indefinitely by the league, and Joe Dumars is the one that hands out suspensions, but they haven't even put a number of games on it. But he's going to get counseling. But Draymond has always thought that he's never done anything wrong, and he's from Michigan, played at Michigan State. He's from Saginaw, and so he's one of ours, and so I love him, and he plays way above his talent level. And he's gotten way more, and I think maybe had a little bit lucky that he went to Golden State, but he's a great passer. He can't shoot, and he doesn't have to because he plays with Steph and Clay and those guys, but he's always been high-strung, and I always said this about Dennis Rodman, those guys that exceed their talent level by so much. It's like, Rodman led the league in rebounding 4 years in a row by quite a margin. He's only 6'8", and there's all these 7-footers that were really good back then. And he's wired different, and Draymond's wired different. But there's a point where you hurt your team. He keeps getting suspended. He got suspended in the finals, and the Warriors would have won another championship if he wouldn't, because he kicked LeBron or somebody. And he says, he choked Rudy Gobert in a game and pulled him away and got suspended for that. And he said, number one thing I'm going to always do is help my teammates. Well, you know what? He punched Jordan Poole. He walked across the gym, walks up to him and cold cocks him. And that's his teammate. And he yells at Kevin Durant and says, "We don't need you. We won without you." And so Durant leaves, and he's not just about that. He's got a big ego too, and he's got a podcast like me. Only his does a lot better than mine, but I worry about him. It's sad for me that he does that, because he's from Michigan, and he had a great career, and now this is how he's going to go down. But he doesn't realize, it's just like if you get in trouble with the law and everything gets compounded. Your sentence gets compounded as you go. But anyway, I'm going to quit rambling about Draymond. But it's just too bad that he's suspended. But he's not just about his team. He does things that are, I don't know if you can call it selfishly. He lacks self-control, though. That's the big thing. I think that he doesn't just hurt his team on purpose. He just can't help himself. Rasheed Wallace was on a podcast, and he said that he thinks that the reason that Draymond acts out like that is because he was around when the bad boys were there, and he was always going to the games and around the arena when the bad boys were playing. And so he thinks that they affected him, and she did that. I mean, he had to sit out games because he led the league in technicals a whole bunch of years. So anyway, the Cam Whitmore update. A guy that I really liked in the draft last year, and he's playing in the G League because they're loaded. They have Tari Eason, and they got Dylan Brooks, and they have Jabari Smith Jr. They have all these forwards, and even more than that. And Tate, they just got a whole bunch of guys, so there's no minutes for him. So he's playing in the G League. He scored 42 points, 15 for 23, 5 for 11 on threes, and that's why I wanted him ahead of Asar, because he could shoot, and he's a great athlete. But he was 5 for 11 on threes, 7 rebounds, 3 assists. He's averaging 26 points, 6 rebounds, and 3.4 assists. And that was one of his big things, is that he didn't pass the ball. But anyway, thank you for listening. I sure appreciate you. Remember to subscribe, be the reason that somebody feels cared for, and go Pistons.